This is the Conrad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, and Facebook. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is June 1st, 2023, and this is episode 316 of Workshop Radio. How the hell is everyone out there? I am finally back in the saddle, back in the live studio, the Workshop Radio studio. It's good. I'm not going anywhere for like 3 months, so you won't have any of these on-the-road episodes that you love so much, but here we are. So let's get some announcements out of the way, and then we'll bring on the whole crew that's sitting in the background. We got a good one. Tonight we're going to take a second dive into the first book, 1 second after. It's going to be great. First off, Thursday night, let's remember our sponsor, my good buddy, Joel Riles over at Fortress K9. You can go to fortressk9.com. Normally I talk about his podcast, but I got thinking about how bad my chihuahuas were lately. I guess they're just pissed because I've been gone for a bit. And Joel also offers K9 Academy over at fortressk9.com. So if your dogs are bad, well, you can get online training with him. I don't think there's any help for mine, but honestly, all kidding aside, Joel is an incredible dude whom I've spent much time with, drank some bourbon with, smoked some cigars with, and he's a dude that I trust. So give him some support. If you need to fill out your podcast feed, then give him a go because he has good stuff. Hey, number 2, I got to stand up to show you guys this. Here is the latest. See that? The latest shirt from John Willis. Since it's like the first 2 minutes of the episode, I can't read it out loud. Otherwise, this video will be demonetized. So we are what we are. But it says F your feelings for anybody out there who wants to see it with a beautiful smiley face. So thanks to John for sending that out. I use the over-the-shoulder tactical carry bag, or as my wife likes to call it, my man purse, from John all the time. You can pick it up at originalsoe.com. And he's a good friend of mine, so give him some support. We love to keep the money in the anarchist agorist community. And finally, guys, speaking of friends that I enjoy, EMP Shield. It's a company that sells a product that I'm willing to back at this point, and they employ friends of mine that I trust and want to help support. So if you're ever thinking about getting a whole home surge protector, lightning arrestor, and if you're thinking, hey, it'd be kind of cool to have some EMP protection as well, you can use my promo code ToolmanTim, and you save $50 off it. Hey, Red Moose Farm, we see you in there. So with that, I got a whole bunch of fellow delinquents in the background. Let's see if we can fit them all on the screen tonight. Hey, y'all, how are you? Oh, I got Rachel, I got Nate. Oh, there we go. Somehow it all muted. There we go. Oh, Nate's still muted. There we go.
There we go. Fixed.
How is everybody?
Good.
All right.
Not too bad at all. It's good to have you back. We figured that we did so much, there's so much in that book that Nate and I were kind of talking after last episode that it was worth coming back and revisiting the book for a second go. So even though we didn't necessarily focus on just the first half last time, this evening we're going to try to focus on the last 6-ish chapters, I think. Let me see what I got in my notes. So from chapter 6 on, it doesn't mean we won't jump around, but there was so much interest in this book that I thought we couldn't just let it lie with a single episode. So here we are. So what's everybody been up to? Let's go around the horn. Nate, what have you been getting up to lately?
We got our garden in.
Nice.
Playing around with that. We actually had to use our transfer pump, go down to the pond, and pull water out of the pond to fill the rain barrels up.
Yes, sir.
We have not gotten any rain for... What's it been, 3 weeks?
Sounds about right here, too.
And instead of using the city water that's got chlorine and all that other fun stuff in it, we just threw the water barrels on the back of the ATV. Well, the little Harbor Freight trailer that I have.
Yeah.
It's 40 by 48, so it'll fit an IBC tote, basically.
Was that the Harbor Freight trailer, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice, the non-foldable one, right?
Yes, yeah, it's a little tiny one. It's the 40 by 48.
Nice.
We use it as a lawn cart, basically.
Okay.
So I threw the rain barrels on there, unhooked them from the gutter system, set them on top, strapped them down. We went down to the pond, and then sucked a bunch of water out.
And it worked better than the
yeah.
town water for sure, right?
Yep.
Right
Yeah,
on.
it worked great.
How about you, Rach? What have you been up to?
Same thing with working on the garden. I think we're probably a little over a week that we haven't had any rain.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's going around.
Seems to be the I don't know, the running theme just about everywhere. And how's work been?
Haven't gotten in any trouble.
Good.
That I know.
Well, I don't know. Is that living if you're not getting in trouble?
I think I'm probably about the favorite troll around there. So,
Excellent. How about John Palmer? How are you been, bud? Oh, he's on mute. Oh, there you go.
Man, this has been a week. I mean, as far as this now, I've been getting everybody else's rain. It seems like it rains about every 2 days around here, so I can't dry anything out. But I did get another wicking bed built out of an old shot vac drum. Man, I tell you what, you want to talk about a good planter for planting stuff like tomato plants and pepper plants and stuff like that. Even if you don't make a wicking bed out of it, you take one of those, just old shot vac that give out, the motor give out and everything, throw the top part away and just use the bottom of it for a planter. Man, that's already got wheels under it and everything. It's perfect. And
Red Green would be proud of you.
I've picked them up off the side of the road and thrown them in the Jeep and brought them home. I had to work on the Jeep recently. I tell you what, I bought 10 chickens because I found a guy selling chickens for $5 a piece for 18-month-old hens out of it's commercial hatchery hens that they get them right after they start laying, and they use them for about a year, and then they get a new bunch of them, and so I got those going.
Nice.
I just dealing with life as it tries to smack me in the face.
Now, I'm not saying you sound like Boomhauer, but for just a minute, I had a Boomhauer moment there because I heard, man, I tell you what, and I'm like, oh, come on, do the Boomhauer. That is great.
That's okay. I was having an Aerosmith throwback when you said back in the saddle again.
Oh, back in the yes, sir. How about Byron? How's BR?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. And finally got my garden planted, or the small garden planted, and the bigger garden out to the farm. As my stepmom was working on it a little bit. And it's been dry here too. We got a little rain the other night, but it's still dusty. And if we don't get any rain by Saturday, I'll have to water everything. So
is getting there. I'm telling you, we just come back from Addie near Spokane, and we got some rain while we were there. We went through one massive downpour, but coming back through Alberta, boy, it's hurting. There's places that should be green that are yellow, and we could. I mean, it's calling for a bunch of rain, but it called for like half an inch this afternoon. We didn't get any of it, so I guess we'll wait and see what we end up with. So
we already had our first 90-degree day today too, so it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a long, hot summer, dry summer. Yep,
I know the farmers up here got the crops in, but it's just damp enough. I mean, we had nasty fall. We had below average snow for the winter, and we haven't had a hell of a lot of rain yet, so we could use it. And then, of course, out east, where I grew up, Nova Scotia, they got wildfires too, which almost never happens. So, anyway, it is what it is. We had Jody on here. She might pop back in. I think she might have had some technical difficulties. So, if she comes back, we'll introduce her because she's new. She's really excited to get on her first episode with us. So, all right. So we're gonna. I guess we're just gonna. So what I did tonight, so that I would try to force us to stay on topic. No, we can go anywhere we want. That's the fun of it. It's our show. But I went through and I grabbed. So when I look in the audiobook, it says there's only 11 chapters. But when you listen to chapter 11, it's actually chapter 11 and chapter 12. So I did chapter 6 through 12. And what I realized or didn't realize was at the start of each chapter, it gives what day it is. And we're halfway through the book, chapter 6, and it's only 10 days into the event.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The second half jumps a bit, but even that, like, even by the time we get to the war, it's only 63 days in.
Right.
So before I forget, I was doing a little bit of digging on this book today. I don't think I mentioned this before, but there was an article in 2021 saying that J. Michael Straczynski was going to write a pilot for this show, but I haven't seen any more about it. So he wrote one of my favorite shows, Jeremiah, from years ago, and I believe he wrote Babylon 5 and a few others. So he's no spring chicken when it comes to post-apocalyptic fiction. All right, so go ahead.
With the writer strike going on, that might be a little while.
Oh, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. Just replace him with an AI bot because
exactly. GPT.
Couldn't be any worse than the trash that they've been writing anyway.
Oh, shit.
Oh man, I'm telling you, we used Chat GPT today for some things. We'll just leave it at that, and it's very effective. Let's put it that way. So, if you need something written in, say, in the writing style of a grade 9 reader, it can do that. In case you're wondering. So, not for my kids, but if I was helping somebody else, that is a possibility. So, interesting. All right, so chapter 6 starts out with an infection getting really nasty in his hand. Anybody have it? Like, I mean, it's 10 days in, so it's going to be nasty. But what do you guys think about that? Well, who wants to start with that? Because it was just right from the beginning, it was an awful situation.
Yeah, it's John. John always says, so if you ever listen to John Willis and his live streams, he always straight out says, it's not going to be the gunshot that gets you, it's going to be the cut that gets you on your hand.
Right.
Yeah, the hangnails.
Yeah, the hangnails. Exactly. You know, it's
a slip of the chainsaw.
Sure. Anything.
Yeah, I mean, that got Howard in the Going Home series.
Yep.
So it's always the little things that end up coming back and bite you in the ass.
I remember, I don't know if it was somebody my dad knew or a story he heard as a kid, but there was a guy in the woods who nicked himself, probably on an artery, on a chainsaw, and he panicked and started running, trying to get out of the woods, and he didn't make it very far, maybe a minute or two, and they found him there completely dead, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's why you got to have your medical on your person all the time.
Yeah. Oh, man. I guess I didn't even really, I'm not going to say I didn't know what a tourniquet was, but I didn't know how easy they were to use many years ago when I used to use a chainsaw. But I'll tell you right now, I would never work on a chainsaw without a tourniquet by hand anymore. Because, whew. Here.
Need one.
What's that?
I still need one.
That's okay. Chris
And
says
even after we had that guy at work that lost his leg and almost bled out because of a forklift accident, you'd think that I would carry one at all times. But yeah, no.
None of us are perfect, Rach. I'm telling you. There's things I forgot on my last road trip that I've never forgot before. So it's life. We try to, it's like the other day my brother-in-law says, "Hey, Tim, can I borrow your knife?" I'm like, actually, it's sitting on my end table at home. He's like, "What kind of damn prepper are you? You don't have your neck knife on." I'm like, see, the one time you need the knife, I forget it. So there you go. What's that?
Or a flashlight. I got 3 flashlights I can carry, and today I had none of them on me.
Sure. Well, you know what? My flashlight hangs on
That's
my
why I have the flashlights, though.
So Chris says he went canoeing 2 months ago, got a scratch, and the water from the river infected it. 2 months later, and it's almost healed, and that's with topical antibiotics. So there you go. So we're talking 2 months later, and it's still a little bit weird. And here's my thing. I don't know. We're all kind of in that same age category. But as a person gets older, things don't heal quite as fast as they did when you were a kid. You notice that too, Nate?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I have little scratches that'll hang on just a little longer. Yes. Oh, is that comfrey salve?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I always used to joke about how mom and dad's, you know, the skin on their arms always looked a little thin, you know, and just, you know, you hit 40, you're like, yeah, it's just not quite as thick as it used to be, you know.
Yep.
It rubs the lotion.
Yeah,
on
it don't get
know.
any better there, Tim. Let me tell you.
Well, the alternative, it beats the alternative. Let's put it that way.
You know, I've always had an argument for that because, you know, depending on your beliefs, you know, I was raised, you know, with Christian beliefs. They tell you that,
Sure.
you know, that once, you know, we leave this life, we go into paradise. So, I mean, maybe the alternative's better. We just don't know. I don't know that I want to test that theory because, you know, I mean, coming back from that's a little difficult from what I understand. So
the thing is about that theory is it has 100% fatality rate in order to test it. So
yeah,
it is what it is, right? You know?
Well,
Living has 100% fatality rate.
Life does.
Yeah.
Life does, yeah.
Life, the sexually transmitted disease that is under has 100% mortality rate.
Exactly.
Big bad Snail Creek Homestead, great to have you. So to put that into perspective, you got Chris, who just a little tiny water infection, and it's taken 2 months with proper treatment and topical antibiotics. So it's I don't want to jinx it and I don't want to get a bad cut, but the next bad cut I'm going to test out some of this comfrey and see how much better it works because it can't hurt. Let's put it that way.
And I keep probably 3 jars at least of that Dr. Christopher's around all the time.
Is that the bone salve or bone salve or is that a different one?
Yeah, bone and joint is what it's called, but it's made with comfrey and some other stuff. Comfrey is the base. But I'm telling you right now, using that on a cut versus using nothing or using Neosporin even, which I've talked to some medical professionals that talk about that Neosporin is like, because of what's in it, is really like some of the worst stuff that you can use.
Really?
Oh yeah. It kills.
It kills the beneficial stuff. Too. So, but I use that Dr. Christopher's, and the difference between using that and using nothing or using anything else I've tried is in the healing time, it cuts it in half for me.
That's cool. I made some. I just haven't actually used it yet. So I guess I need to. You guys keep bragging it up. It's just one of those things. So I have to take, I got so much. I'll bring some with me next time I head south to hand out at the events. But Chris says grow aloe if you can. I'll say when I was a kid, a good friend of mine, I used to spend the night at his house, Jason. He had a wood stove in his kitchen, and you know, back in the day, there was no such thing as insulated pipe. So you had the old wood pipe just glowing red hot. And I was going to put my boots on, hit my elbow right there, right on the pipe. I'd never heard of aloe vera before, and his mom, God rest her soul, she's passed away since. She gave me some. She said, just keep putting that on there all day long. Just kept taking the pain away. It was so good. It's the weirdest thing.
That's just about like one of the worst burns I ever got. I was heating some metal to bend it for a bracket to fit something to one of my motorcycles, and the piece I was holding it up there to see if I was getting it close. I just finished heating it up. I mean, just glowing hot and bending it some, and the piece slipped, and I reached and grabbed it right where I had been heating it up. Golly.
I can feel that. I can just feel it. Oh, yeah. And then, so, okay, let's bring it back to the infection, because it don't take much to get a burn infected either. You know, I mean, and that would be easy. You know, you're trying to build a fire or get something going you can cook on. You're doing some sort of, field expedient fireplace or something, and you go grab. There's been times I put like those glass. When I was young and broke, I used to use a glass pot, the all glass ones you could use on the stovetop, except I'd put them in the oven and bake in them. And then I'd put them on the stovetop and then go grab the handle. And so just stupid things, right? You don't think, you make a dumb move, and yeah. So from there, they ended up having, this was something Nat had mentioned in the book club Telegram group. And if you're not a part, come by and join. But he mentioned about a lot. He wanted to hear more about the discussion of how to make sure people get fed, how to make sure people held on to their food. So what did everybody think about the fact that they wanted to offer protection for the farms? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Reality, that's the only way you're going to do it. I mean, you're either going to have people stealing food, or you're just not going to eat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's either you are going to take care of it yourself and be one person, and never get any sleep at night, because that's when everybody's going to swing through, or you're going to get you're going to have 5 or 6 people out there and everybody's going to be able to eat. So.
And it's tough because, and I get it. And what I really appreciated about what Fortune did in the book was he knew, like even John, the main character, he knew what the right thing was. He knew what his principles were, but he also had to be practical in every scenario they did it. They had to talk, and he's like, I understand, I hate but it's funny because he's not always practical, right? There's times he's practical, and then there's the next conversation when they talk about their dogs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, did you like like 2 or 3 times they mentioned the mafia? He always made those offhand comments about, oh yeah, you're from Jersey. I know you know all about the protection racket, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that one.
So what do you think, Byron, about that? As far as, did you think they did a good job distributing the food, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for the situation, I guess that small area they were in, they did the best they could because they knew. Well, later on, they knew they had trouble coming, so they needed to keep the younger, more able-bodied people healthy and able to protect them, and keep the ones that knew what to do going healthy.
That was tough. I don't know that, man, because there were people like the dean of the Christian school there. Him and his wife basically made up their mind that they weren't going to eat. And I mean, that's noble. I get it. If I were that age, I hope I would do the same thing, because like they said, it was a form of triage. But for somebody to, intentionally make the choice to not eat so that younger people could survive, that's a special person, man. That's crazy.
Okay.
What about, there's quite a bit of conversation about how the group, like in chapter 6, it was the forming of the town he's in, and then the other town. Do you guys remember the name of the other town that kind of joins forces with them?
Charleston?
Was it
Charleston?
I don't remember.
So I figured we were far enough removed we might not remember, but either way, the whole idea was, hey, if you do this, we'll align with this. And if you do what's that?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay, no problem.
I cannot remember.
But it definitely felt like years ago. It wasn't. I mean, Becky and I've been together a little while. She got me to watch the Tudors, with Henry VIII or whatever, and it was a good show. I enjoyed it. But the whole idea was, first you'd be aligned with France, and then France would piss you off, and then all of a sudden France is the enemy, and Spain's your ally now. Very much like 1984.
Who does that sound like in current day?
Yeah, you're right.
Except for on that thing, the only ones that you couldn't tick off was the church, because they could ruin your whole world.
Well, that's true, except Henry VIII is like, well, screw you. I'm going to start my own church. I want a divorce. So he's like, here's the Anglican church. Surprise. He was, he was an interesting dude, that guy.
That was a good show.
That Natalie Dormer, she got started in that. She was Anne Boleyn. One. Yeah, she's been in everything since. But I like. What's that?
She was in
Hunger Games.
Yeah. What was the other one? We just watched it. Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, she was. Yeah, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers was great as Henry. I thought he's an awesome actor. I like him a lot. He doesn't do a lot now, but how about when they threatened to blow up the water supply? What do you think of that, Rachel? Or at least the conversation around threatening to blow up the water supply?
Do you mean at the very end when he was trying to demand the insulin for his daughter, or
No,
in the
earlier
beginning?
on when they're having the discussion at the town council meeting where they say, yeah, get rid
When
of
they
the
want, when they wanted to send the townspeople to them.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was probably the best play they could have made. Really, I mean,
agree.
these guys are trying to pull a power play and tell you, here is what you will do. Okay, well, you can't piss off the people that actually control one of your necessities.
I mean, they're literally downstream from them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing I thought about that is threatening. It's one thing. You wouldn't actually want to do it if it came to actually like some kind of an action. You just want to poison the water supply because you might need the resources that they have later. And then after everybody dies, you just go down there and plunder it.
Oh, that John, boy, that John's a twisted dude. I'd never come up with something that twisted, John.
Sorry.
No, you're right, though. Absolutely. That was the idea behind an EMP, wasn't it? The fact that, that's the same kind of concept. Let's kind of not destroy the land, but let's kill all the people so that it's not irradiated and we can come in and take it over afterwards.
Right.
So, yeah, very similar.
Yeah, you don't want to be like Russia where when you're fleeing from the Germans, you just burn everything so that there's nothing left.
So is that I don't know a ton about that. So how did that, do you know a little more about that, John?
That was part of what gave them such a great victory when Germany was going to invade Russia is the fact that when Russia fell back, they just burnt everything, and German army couldn't get resupplied fast enough to keep up. Now the other side of it is Germany was not prepared for the winters that you get in Russia. And while the Russians were well prepared for it, the Germans were freezing to death.
Well, I guess that's a little similar in this instance as well. We're going to talk about it in a couple of chapters down the road. But I mean, John and his family pulled out of his home under the understanding that they were going to burn those houses so that the enemy had nowhere to hide. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting, so how about the refugees? I don't know what to call it. The plan. What do you think of that, Nate? Where they're like, well, what do we do? Well, let's let them through.
I think that's the best way to handle it. Just keep on moving. We're not going to take you in. Go find them somewhere else. They already took in a bunch of people off the highway.
See, that whole part of that I didn't understand. So that you can barricade up the road, but nothing keeps them from just traipsing off through the woods and going around the barricades where you can't see them. I don't know that. I didn't get.
I remember them searching them out too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and I think. Oh, go ahead, Nate. Sorry, bud.
There were a couple instances of that in the book where they, we're missing 5 people. We're going to go find them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their back was against a wall. And I mean, we've all seen how many cheesy. The author himself, every time he wants to kind of illustrate something, he uses movie scenes or book scenes or TV scenes because that's what we know, right? So how many of us have seen movies like World War Z, for instance, or The Walking Dead, where you have these great big hordes of either zombies or refugees who just continue to push and push and push, and eventually it just becomes its own force that you can't reckon with. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Chris says the refugee pressure relief valve was mentioned in Clay Martin's Prairie Fire as an excellent way to get refugees moving along away from you. Huh. And he specifically referenced 1 second after, it's a great idea, else you get overwhelmed. What is that I'm going to guess that's a book. Has anybody read that or seen? No.
So
I'll see if I can find a link for it. What's that, Nate?
One of the other things, the scorched earth policy.
Yep.
That was done down here in the U.S.
Oh, during the Civil War, wasn't it?
It was Sherman's March to the Sea.
Yeah.
So it was the Union. It was the Unions doing that to the Confederates as they were moving down to, what is it, Charleston or Savannah? I don't remember what exactly area it was, but yeah, it was Sherman who did that.
Yeah, I do remember that too. So maybe the Russians stole it from us. I don't know.
The Russians probably got it from Napoleon. Napoleon was
Oh.
notorious for that.
Was he really? So again,
yeah.
What would they do? They would go in, take the land, and they would burn everything behind them. So they, that's interesting.
Hey, fun fact about Napoleon, he was always kind of renowned for being a short guy. He's actually like about 5'8", but he surrounded himself with very large men as soldiers, so it made him look smaller.
Yep.
Now, was that just so that people would underestimate him?
No, that was because he wanted big people fighting for him. He wanted big, strong men, and they ended up being bigger than him.
I just threw up an Amazon link. For some reason, it defaulted to Amazon Canada, but there is Prairie Fire, and it's called. Actually, let's go back here. I'm going to bring it up for anybody who's on the live stream right quick. Present, share screen. There it is, guys. So this is. Well, hang on. There it is. Prairie Fire Guidebook for Surviving Civil War Civil War II. Prairie Fire is a guide for red counties to survive. Oh, yes. Now I know this book. Okay. Said real world examples such as Concrete Jungle, a Green Beret's Guide to Urban Survival. It's a spiritual successor made specifically for those in rural areas. So very cool. I'll do my damnedest to add a link to that in the show notes without forgetting. So, but yeah. There we go. He said, yeah, Chris just said it. The second book builds on the first one, Concrete Jungle. There we are. Cool. See, this is why I love our community. We always learn something new every episode. So yeah, the pressure relief valve for the refugees coming through. The thing I thought about was how they kind of dangled the carrot at the end. Hey, there's fresh water just around the corner. Go get a drink and wash up your kids. Like it. Fortune's really good in propaganda and using psychology to get what they want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, selling that hope of hopes and dreams, really.
Well, there was both and. So in that refugee pressure cooker, they had the, dangling the carrot at the end. You had the fresh water going, and then he also said, remember how they had the people wearing the CDC outfits or the chemical warfare outfits, and he said that created a natural barrier and a feeling of inferiority. So you had desperate people feeling inferior with a little bit of hope here. He was basically using their entire emotional spectrum to force them through, And then you had some armed guards all the way along, and it worked pretty well for quite a while.
Yeah, that was a smart thing to do. Get the hazmat suits out. Keep people kind of at bay, worried about something that there might be something wrong in the area.
Right. I liked it. I mean, it is, nothing's perfect in any of these books. It's always the same thing. You always worry, you always think, well, I wouldn't do it that way, or, we judge them. But when you're in a scenario and survival's the only option, you got to come up with some shady shit sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. So Tyler passed away, and Tyler looks like John just hit some bumps there. You okay, John?
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. I couldn't hear it. It was just funny. I was making sure you're okay. So.
Oh yeah, just rough Oklahoma roads.
Oh, it's all right. So Jennifer, right? That's the grandmother. Her name was Jennifer as well.
Yep.
Or Jen. Yeah.
They call her Jen.
Yeah. She was a pretty strong woman. What do you think of her, Rach?
I think she's pretty much the best anybody could hope for as far as how to handle things in situations. I mean, she was there for everybody. She did the nursing. She made sure everybody got fed, made sure everybody was taken care of. With Tyler being in the nursing home and being in such a horrible state, she didn't care what it was. She cleaned him up. She cleaned him up after laying in his own mess for, however long, and never said a thing, never just did anything but worked her way through it, and the next day will be better.
She held it together. I mean, we deal with the situation with the dog here in a few minutes. That she did the hard thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, John said she used to help him clean up throw up or baby diapers, or he just didn't have the stomach for it, and she just, you know, completely held it together for him. So chapter 6. Oh, what's that, Rach?
She was his rock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is cool because it was his mother-in-law, and I love some of the reminiscing about how things were a little rough and rocky, you know, right down to her finding them in a compromising position on the living room couch. So chapter 6 started on day 10. It ends with John passing out from the infection. Chapter 7 opens up day 18. So we've only gone a week, basically 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
And he wakes up with Michaela taking care of him. And a line that she mentions early on is, hospitals are now more dangerous than just staying at home. What do you think of that, Byron?
That's true. I mean, 'cause you had an infection running rampant there. There was no sanitary, nothing to clean with. I mean, you know, there's no filtering of the air. Nobody cleaning up after the patients that was in there, or even the patients that was there. If you did a triage, you were limited on the medical supplies. You only treated the person that needed it, not the whole, you know, staff or all, you know, for a possible outbreak of something.
So hospitals are already a pretty good place to get an infection, and as it is, when times are good. So, I mean, it'd be pretty natural for them to just be a complete cesspool if things went downhill.
I always said hospitals and funeral homes are germ factories. I mean,
All we
Old
have to
folks'
do
homes
is,
too.
what's that?
Old folks' homes too.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Nate. Exactly.
Old folks' home is just a hospital for old people to go, you know, to their basically the last of their days when they can't be on their own. But
no, it's true.
I was gonna tell you, Tim, a good mother-in-law, man, as bad as some mother-in-laws can be, if you get a good one, man, that's just like gold. I had a great mother-in-law. Same kind of deal. It started out kind of rocky. I can't blame her. The first date that I took my wife on, when I showed up to pick her up, they were both at work at a truck stop, and I was wearing a T-shirt that said, "I'm so good I scream my own name out during sex." So that was her first impression of me.
Dude, that's awesome. And you're right. You know, we don't always. I mean, they say we can't pick our family, but we can pick our friends. But you know, and you can't help who you fall in love with. But it sure helps, like you said, to have an incredible mother-in-law, right? Chris, let's shout out. Anybody out there have a good mother-in-law? Throw it in the comments, because that's awesome. Chris says my mother-in-law was born a homesteader and she's amazing. That's great. Nate, you put your hand up, did you, brother?
Yep. Yeah, my mother-in-law is awesome.
That's good.
My wife's mother-in-law, not so much.
Was Aaron married before?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get you guys. I totally do. That's cool. Yeah, having a good support system, especially an extended support system, is worth so much. And that's a good point, John. I appreciate you bringing that up, brother. So, Michaela, so he wakes up. Michaela's been watching over him. And I think this was the point where Jen or Jenny, whatever her name, the mother-in-law, kind of softened a bit to Michaela, because she realized if it wasn't for Michaela, John would probably be dead at this point. Wakes up, hot dog soup, I think, right? Was it hot dog soup? I think
so.
Yeah. What's that, Rach?
Wasn't hot dog and potato?
I think so, yeah. And he was hungry, but they have to have a conversation. Michaela says to John, we need to talk to Jennifer about the concept of death. Has anyone out there ever had to discuss that with kids in this kind of instance? Not in this dark of a necessity, but that's a tough. Death is a hard topic to talk around, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way to do it: have animals.
Is have animals.
Have animals and have livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids figure it out really quick, and that's probably helped with us. My kids understand shit happens.
Right.
We either do really good or we do really bad. I made it very clear to our kids that our livestock have great lives while they're here, and it's just one bad day.
Right. And not even a bad day, a bad instant.
Yeah, pretty much. So
That's cool.
I think that's the easiest way to do it. Coming from somebody who has livestock and has kids, and the kids are pretty sensitive, I would say something like that. So,
Well, yeah, because William Fortune in the book, he talks a lot about how modern society has been removed from death, right down to the mini golf carpet that's covering the dirt pile, or the excavator hidden out of sight until everybody leaves. That's a good point, Nate. Letty just signed up to come back on the show and talk about being prepared for death again, and that's really good about the necessity. Our three older grew up always being around on dispatch day. Whenever we would take care of chickens or pigs or whatever, and that was helpful for them. They knew. Allie and Charlie, maybe they've been a little more removed from it. Maybe that's on me, but yeah, that's a good point, man.
Yeah.
From there, the homemade shower. What do you think of the homemade shower, Byron?
Pretty good idea. I mean, you got to have it. I mean, it's easier than trying to take a bath out of a bucket. I mean, a sponge bath or a hoe bath, as you
Well, I was thinking, of course, that's where my mind went to as a dad. As soon as they said who built it, I'm like, oh yeah, Ben. Of course he built it because he's going to help his girlfriend out. But they were pretty quick to tell him, you're good. So I was at Costco yesterday morning. This was in the States. I don't know if we have them in Canada or not, but I saw a really cool. It looked like, I don't know, an industrial strength watering can, like you would, water your flowers with, right? Except it was totally enclosed, and it had a hose that came off it, just like a normal, watering can head, so it would kind of sprinkle out. But on the back end, it had a pump, just like a pesticide pump, like a Roundup type thing. And this was made to be a pressurized water canister. So you could go around, put water in it, pump it up, and it was an off-grid kind of thing. I got thinking it was black, so you could leave it in the sun and probably have a quick Navy bath or Navy shower using something like that. So I thought anybody seen one of those before?
Nope.
No. Yeah, that's what I thought of anyway when I seen it. But shortwave radio, Nate. We haven't said that three-letter word that starts with H and ends in ham, but I'll take a drink for you. So I want to ask you, being our resident ham nerd head, what do you call hammy guy? I don't know.
A ham radio operator, amateur.
You'll be you're going to be.
He's a ham head.
Ham head.
Big ham.
So, two things I want to ask you, Nate. Number one, how important is having access to short radio right now? And how effective or how widespread do you think shortwave radio actually would be in a scenario like this?
It's still a thing. It's the 40 meter or 41 meter broadcast band.
Okay.
Europe, it goes 7.2 to 7.4.
Okay.
I think. And it's all AM. So it kind of crosses over the 40 meter amateur radio band. That's from 7.2 to 7.3.
Okay.
You'll hear them come in. There's usually a loud carrier, so you can pick up the actual frequency, like the center point. And then it all depends on propagation. We do have some shortwave in the U.S. It's down near. It's in the 6 megahertz range, somewhere around there. So it's like right below 40 meters.
Voice of America?
Yeah, Voice of America was definitely a thing. That museum is still up and running. If anybody ever wants to go check it out,
Okay.
It's in Cleveland, I think.
Cleveland
and they
Rock.
still, yeah, and they still have the antenna up along with the transmitter.
Okay.
It's actually it's on the air. You can make contact with somebody who's down there.
Okay.
I have them in my log. It was, I don't know, about a year ago. I think I got them. It's Whiskey Alpha 8 VOA. So Voice of America, I think, is what it is. I'd have to look up the exact call sign, but it is Voice of America.
Because I've picked up on shortwave, I'm sure, an American station before that transmits out of the Rocky Mountains, I thought. Am I?
Yeah, that's probably going to be a pirate or religious. A lot of religious is on shortwave.
So there was just recently, and if somebody out there knows it, the article came across my wavelength for a minute a while back. There was one in Tennessee, and it had kind of a survivalist prepper kind of bent or whatever. I believe there's still an online radio station, but I think they said it was costing them something like $5,000 a month to operate the shortwave station. They just didn't have the money, so they've shut it down, it's a shame, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it's useful, but your line of sight is more around, like down your block,
right?
But your shortwave is over the horizon.
Okay.
So if you're set up in, say, Iowa, you can get East Coast, West Coast, if you have an omnidirectional antenna.
So not that we're going to turn it into the ham radio hour, but if a person wanted a decent shortwave radio to play with now, maybe buy two, throw one in a Faraday cage or something, just in case. And any recommendations or?
Sea Crane, I think, is one.
Okay.
Let me look it up real quick. It's I'll give you give me a second here.
I have a couple in my drawer. I'm going to see if I can find one, because I found one for pretty darn cheap on Amazon a while back, and it worked good. I've got I think you and I talked about. I bought a little string antenna that you can, hook it in and then you throw it up over a tree limb or something to give you a little better connection.
Yep. So I'll put it in or I'll send it to you in Telegram, Tim.
Yeah, sure. And I'll share it out here, guys. Well, you know what? I'm actually keeping the links tonight, so I'm going to put both books and the shortwave radio in here. So I'll grab that from Telegram from you, Nate.
So that is a Sea Crane single sideband with AM and FM. It's brand new. It's about $170. But that will cover all the amateur radio bands, all the shortwave bands, and really you can spend the money and throw a $100 antenna behind it, and you get everything.
Did I hear you say that covers the amateur bands as well?
Mm-hmm.
Holy, that would be a great product just for information gathering.
Yeah, it's all right. So pretty much all your single sideband radios like that will cover the amateur radio bands.
Oh, okay.
And I can cover all of them on my amateur radios.
Okay.
So I actually can get airband on my 2-meter 70-centimeter rig. I can get Chicago air traffic control.
That's not very close to you, is it?
It's actually really close to me. It's like 60 miles away.
Okay.
So I can get O'Hare, and I can also get the airport that's 5 miles down the road.
Oh.
You have to look for those radios that have that setup. Now my HF rig will cover, it's 30 kilohertz to 52 megahertz.
Okay.
So it's a huge span, everything in between. It'll do everything from your regular AM radio stations in town. So I can get WLS on it. 890 out of Chicago. I can get all the religious Sunday sermons that are done on shortwave. I can get European shortwave coming in. I can get all the ham radio bands, everything. So
Looks like we might have to do another ham episode, Nate. We got all kinds of questions coming up.
we do. So that RTL SDR, you need a laptop.
Okay. And what about GMRS radio?
GMRS is really good for line of sight.
Okay.
So you're talking within a block, really. And, unless you're up on a mountain, then that's how you get your magical 100-mile range.
So if you're driving in a convoy, it'd be okay?
Yeah, if you're driving in a convoy, you'll get, maybe 3 miles if you got an external antenna.
Okay. That'd be plenty, unless you're a really bad driver.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that explains the fact that we definitely need to do another ham radio episode, Nate, because there's always, every time we joke about ham, here's another drink. But every time we do an episode, it's hugely popular. So we will. Maybe on an odd night or something. Maybe, I don't know, if a Friday night works for you sometime.
Yep,
we can do
we can do whenever. I'm open.
Cool. All right. So back to chapter 7. We'll jump along a little bit. Let's see. Yes. So the first passing mention of the large organized cults, and they said there is a guy over in Knoxville who is working up on a holy war. Now, the last time I heard that, I had to chuckle because a friend of mine, I don't think I mentioned this in the past, so I'm not going to say who, but an extended member in our community told me about I don't know if cult's the right word, but a bit of a militaristic church in that general vicinity. So I was like, what are the chances? I don't imagine it was based on that, but it could be, So it was an interesting, the cult aspect, and something I never caught until this time around was the fact that the posse was actually a cult. Not a cult. I didn't mean that. What do they call it? A gang, an organized gang pre-EMP.
Yeah,
have you ever heard of them, Byron, or was it made up for the book, do you think?
I'd say it was made up, or it might have been something like years ago, maybe like a small gang or something from South America or some name, maybe.
Hey, Nate, can you answer a ham radio question in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. Best bang for your buck ham transceiver on the market.
What's your budget?
Under $500.
Do you want local comms or do you want over the horizon comms?
By ham transceiver, I'm guessing they're thinking far, like
shack in the box. You're not going to find anything. You're not going to find a shack in the box so that'll have UHF, VHF, and HF. You're looking at about $1,200.
Okay, so how about $1,200 then? What would be the one you'd say?
Yaesu 991A.
YEASU 991.
991A
Okay.
is a shack in the box. But if you want to split them up, so if you break that radio, you have a different radio.
Redundancy.
Redundancy. You want to go with like a 7300.
Okay.
It's an ICOM 7300. Or my personal favorite would be a Yaesu FT891.
FT891?
Yep, 891 for HF.
Okay.
And then a TYT 9800 for UHF and VHF.
Whoops, I put VIF, but you guys know what I mean.
That's
there you
right.
go. So I put at least there's no links there, but if anybody's listening to this in the audio and they're like, oh, Nate, yeah, that thing's a walking dictionary. Anyway, it's all in the live chat if you come on YouTube and check it out. So
Yep, or shoot me an email or a question. You can find me in the workshop. So
I got to shout out Moon Bear because I don't remember. Do you guys remember seeing Moon Bear in here before, once or twice,
Nope.
maybe, or no? Good to have you because they're very interested in ham radio, so I like that.
yeah, I will. I will spend your money for you.
Nate loves to live vicariously through other hamsters for sure. So,
Well, I mean, all right. So anybody who is getting into it, my current shack right now, I have it's an ICOM IC 7610. I also have a Meritron AL 811H amp. It's an 800 watt amp. That is for my HF bands, and then for UHF VHF, it's a Yaesu FTM 400. That'll do digital as well. And I do have the hotspot to get on to all those little fun stuff on the internet.
next time you come on, the next show we do, I'll get you to put a whole list together. You can use your affiliate links or whatever, but I'll share a whole list of whatever you're using. That would be cool.
Yeah, show and tell.
Yes. Yeah. Oh boy, I love show and tell. That's why I started my YouTube channel.
Now I'll turn this on so you guys can see what this stuff looks like.
All right,
and then you can just post it. You guys talk. I'll take pictures.
Yeah. So Chapter 8, guys. At Chapter 8, we go into day 35. So we are 5 weeks into the apocalypse, and one of the low key favorite kind of things that happen in this book is them rebuilding a phone line. I had Ryan Buford on the show. It must have been a year ago. We did Post-Apocalyptic Salvage, talking about what you could haul off from places, what you could rebuild from things. And I loved hearing them talk about the old, hand crank phone, the manual switchboard. I don't want to date anybody here, but does anyone remember living somewhere that still had a switchboard? Okay, good. All right.
I've done the rotary phones.
Yeah, rotary's about as old as I go.
Okay, so I'm 42 for now until next year, and I remember party lines, which is fine.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with a lady who was 10 years older than me at Home Hardware, maybe even less than 10 years. She lived in almost as rural as Digby Neck got. It was Sandy Cove, so not that rural, but it was 15, 20 minutes from the closest town. And she remembers as a little kid the switchboard. You still dialed in to a lady there. So she would be probably, I'm going to guess 50, 52 right now, something like that. And she remembered there being a switchboard in the town of the village of Sandy Cove growing up. So it's not that far removed in, the small towns where we grew up.
We had party lines. That was it.
Party lines were fun. I'm sure I've told this story, but my dad used to play chess over party lines with his best friend. Used to piss the neighbor off quite a bit. She'd get on, you'd hear her go, and then slam the phone down and come back on 10 minutes later. Nate shared some pictures here. I'll share them out. That. Yeah. I don't know if I'll see if I can figure it out. So Chris says, can use telephone lines, car relays, and a battery to make a crude neighborhood telegraph. Add a buzzer, and it can be a hood alarm as well. Huh. Anybody look into something like that before?
Yeah, so you can do that.
Something similar to this. Probably our youngest active member over on Telegram, Mr. Clark Deacon. He is a young father, entrepreneur. He's just an incredibly inspiring dude. He mentioned the other day that every time he walked past a certain house, he would hear some sort of buzz. And he thought I don't know if he knew what it was, but all I could think of was when you enter a room when the old tube TVs were on, and when you're young enough to still have the frequency in your ears, you could hear it pretty good. It kind of sounded like that sort of thing. Turns out he walked around the house later on and discovered this guy has some sort of deterrent device on his home. And I guess they're using them in parks where they turn them on after midnight to keep teenagers out of the parks. But they're a high-pitched frequency that only people under 25 can hear. So rather an interesting kind of sonic warfare type thing.
That is
I love it. It's like
Ray.
those pest things that you plug into the wall, but for teenagers. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the thing you plug into the wall doesn't work. Hopefully this does.
Right.
Well, Clark can hear it. It bugs him. I mean, what is he, 21, 23? I can't remember. He's not very old. So
it's like several years ago, I had nieces and nephews that had ringtones that I couldn't hear, but they could because it was just a high-pitched noise that was out of my ability to hear anymore. It was a teenager thing that they could put that ringer on their phone and the parents couldn't hear it ringing, but they could.
So
Wow.
James, speaking of which, James mentioned in the Telegram group, he's heard about teenagers using these high frequency buzzers or sounds to cheat during tests, so that because the teacher can't hear it. How friggin' if I caught a kid doing that, I'd give him 100 automatically, because to be able to come up with something like that,
that's using your brain.
Yeah, it is, because they ain't going to remember when they get out of school. They're not going to remember, a whole lot about Shakespeare, but I bet they'll remember how to improvise something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I got to dig.
It's not that hard to shake a spear, though. I mean, how are you going to forget that?
Well, that's true, but
how many people know Morse code? You can tap that out on a desk easily.
That's true. But eventually the teacher's going to be like, can you just shut the hell up?
Or tap your foot on the ground.
That is true. Or anything. There's lots of things you can do. If you were sitting in front of somebody, you could be like, tap, tap on your head, like whatever.
Yep.
But kids, I love it.
Unless the teacher was an old Navy pilot or something, I believe they still have to know that stuff.
Do you think 35 days is a realistic timeline to have a impromptu phone system put back together, guys? Anybody want to grab that?
Not with the right people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to run off and grab my cord.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I thought
I could see it happening.
Go ahead.
If communication is important to you, you'll make it happen.
I agree. I mean, it's similar.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. And I thought it was cool because they weren't just salvaging like physical goods. They were also salvaging knowledge, because they were reaching out to the old linesmen that had been around for 40 or 50 or 60 years, and they're like, hey, can you help us with this? I like that quite a bit. Know Your Joe says, hearing the repetitive nature of Morse code would be a giveaway if the teacher could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yeah, but I mean, if you had one person that knew the answers and it was a multiple choice, I mean, all you have to do is hit your frequencies 3 times, 1 time, whatever, right? So,
yeah.
And Martinson said if the old tech phones were in storage, it wouldn't take long. But like they said, they went along railroads and they found little pieces of old telegram wire, and it wouldn't take long to figure something like that out.
No.
Like, for instance, if you go to our local Provost museum, they have old telephones and that sort of thing on display there. So you would need, I don't know, what did they start with? 4 phones or something? A switchboard and some wire. And then eventually it doesn't take them long and they're all of a sudden, oh yeah, we got it hooked into the next town.
Mm-hmm.
So, Doc, anybody remember the doctor's name? I don't either. Okay. Yeah, I loved him. Great old curmudgeon of a dude. But he's always the bearer of bad news. He always discusses the things that are going to happen. Harbinger of doom, let's put it that way. He talks about the need to deal with the psychological issues because people were going to start running out of their antipsychotic meds. Who's read 299 Days? Anybody?
I got through 4.
Did you get as far as when they had to? They started a little. I hate to call it an insane asylum, but for lack of a better term, they had one.
Yeah.
No.
So same type of thing. Is that a realistic thing, John?
That's such a hard thing because that's devoting a lot of resources to individuals that are not producing anything, and when you're talking about a situation, grid down or apocalypse type post-apocalyptic type situation, that is not something that you can do a lot of.
Because you're, like you said, you're using resources, right?
Well, because all of your resources need to go to the people who are contributing in some way to the good of everybody. And so it's kind of like the old people that you're talking about. They stopped eating because they knew that they had to for the good of everybody else. And it's cold-hearted. It really is, to think about just eliminating those drags on the resources, because it's people that people in your community care about, obviously. But man, I'm just cold-hearted, because that's where my brain goes, is okay, we have to do away with them because we can't afford to have them around.
I understand. I think they mentioned, was it in here where they mentioned basically weren't they putting them in with the Alzheimer's people, or basically they just locked them up and they had somebody on each door? Was that the idea?
Talking about on 299 days?
No, in this one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be the guy that's going to go out and, put down people with psychological issues. But like you said, where do you draw the line when it comes to dealing with them, right? So next, well, Carol, the public relations lady for the tobacco company. What do you think of her, Nate? Do you remember her?
You have no use for a public relations person.
No, not less
None.
than no use, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all right. So you don't need to be hiding somebody to, come up with propaganda or how to better sell the world going south. Everybody knows that it's going to hell in a handbasket in a matter of time.
Right.
So it's, keep on moving. We're not going to take somebody like that. We want somebody who does medical or a mechanic or a welder or something like that.
What do you think of her, Rachel?
That's something that's come up quite a bit on so many of the different people's podcasts about all of the useless professions out there.
Mm-hmm.
If everything went to, okay, I understand the world that we live in now, IT is very important.
Sure.
In a case like this where everything went to shit, what skills does that person have that is actually going to feed him or the family, or be able to contribute to a community? It's just there's so many things out there, unless they're just going to try to use them for a strong back for labor. And if they're somebody that spent their entire life in a cubicle, you don't even have that.
That's what it comes down to, I think, is that exact thing. Is a lot of people who, and this is going to be hard on everyone. I'm not saying it wouldn't be if something like this ever happened, but you have all these people that have basically just spent most of their life doing kind of white collar work. And the only thing that they can do at that point is the exact opposite of that, basically grunt, work all day kind of work, and it might kill them. Go ahead, Nate.
The only IT person you're going to need in a grid down situation is an electrical engineer.
I thought you were going to say a ham radio guy.
No.
I guess it's somebody that can work on all the ham gear?
No. I mean, all right, so an electrical engineer can look at schematics and build stuff. Or look at schematics and figure out how to bypass stuff so it'll work and not get hurt doing it.
Because that's
the whole not getting electrocuted thing is probably important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which book, was it in the Going Home book series that, I don't know, maybe it wasn't. Anyway, somebody cut into or touched some of those big, I don't know the electrical term for it, but the capacitors or whatever that held the electricity and it killed them. It was in one of these book series. It might have been, shit. You know what it might have been, Nate? It might have been the one you sent me, with the teenager that survives the zombie apocalypse. What was that book?
Yeah, Zombie Rules.
Zombie Rules. I think it was in that, where somebody was they thought they'd get the copper or the oil or something out of those big, and they held a charge for like an infinite amount of time, basically.
Yeah.
And it fried them. It was in one of those books, but.
Probably. I mean, I don't remember it offhand, but yeah, it makes sense.
So this is kind of what I wanted to get at, though, Chris. Like Chris says here, the marketing woman made him sad because she was so desperate she was willing to sell herself for food. And then she makes the comment on the fact that she did it and she didn't even feel bad about it, right? Because she was just trying to survive too. I don't know. It's tough. It kind of broke my heart too, because as you're watching the story, you see this woman go from strong, whatever you want to, business lady persona to absolutely broken. And I think it's John that says she probably won't be alive for another week.
Yeah.
So at this point, the refugees are talking about the posse. So it's kind of, I think it's the first specific time we hear it called by that name. And that's the end of chapter 8. We go into chapter 9 and we're at day 63. So what's 63 is 7 weeks in now. And this is where John wakes up to a bump in the night. Anybody want to talk about this scene? Nate? That's where he wakes up and he hears someone in the home.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was.
That's okay. I'll break it down a little for everybody. But John wakes up. What was cool was he had a plan for his kids and for Jen. There was I believe it was two bad guys broke into the house. I guess it implied it was posse, but I don't know if it was, because it had happened the week before to the neighbors. And John has his shotgun. The kids know to hide behind the waterbed.
Oh, yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking, who the hell still has a waterbed? But then I have to remember the book was written in like 2008. So maybe somebody still had a waterbed then. But does anyone on here know someone who has a waterbed?
Well, I don't now. Actually, I just don't have it in storage somewhere, but yeah.
Okay. Do you have a waterbed?
I did growing up, yeah.
My cousin had one, but I mean, I haven't seen one since the mid-90s, maybe? I don't know.
They're expensive. And
they went the way of the BCR repair shop.
Yeah.
They used to say they would cause bladder infection. I don't know. What's that, Rach?
I cannot tell a lie. I have had one within the last decade.
There you go. That's all right.
I used to refer to that as my heat rock.
What's that, Rach?
I used to refer to that as my heat rock.
Oh, yep. And what did you say, Nate, about kids?
We have cats. We can't keep waterbeds.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's literally waterbed.
So we are chapter 9, day 63. So we have to talk about it, of course. We lost. Yep. The dog. Basically, that sucks every time.
Yeah.
Kids and dogs, man.
Yeah.
So they gave the dog to the neighbors. What's anybody think about that? That's a tough thing to talk about. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense. At the time, you want to make sure somebody can eat, and why not let it go? Why let it go to waste?
Yeah.
And he took a chance to help out a neighbor.
Sure. Because
I remember being in there. If a pet dies, hand it over to the village so the village can eat it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then they rat.
It was kind of funny when Jen's like, "Damn it, John! You're a slave to the rules." She's like, "Give him the dog and be done with it," right? And
Yep.
Yeah. It was, and there was a quick little jump scare in that scenario as well, because it turned out the neighbor had come up the hill, and I was like, "Oh," because of course, I thought the same thing. Oh, it's somebody going to shoot him or try to shoot him or whatever. But that neighbor is still a part of the story in book 3. I remember, I don't know, for anybody who's read it, he's still kicking around, so it's kind of cool. They take quite the journey together, the lot of them. So, Hamid, another great, he rigged up. You want to say? Go ahead, Byron.
Yeah, I mean, he was handy. I mean, he did what he could. He listened to the colonel. Traded, kept what he needed to keep and traded it around for generators, and he kept him a business running.
He's the type of dude that would survive and maybe even thrive in a post-apocalyptic situation, because people would already be coming to him, and he knew how to get shit done. He rigged up a generator to get the gas out to run the generator. Had a cooler so he'd have cool drinks and ice, and it was neat. I liked that a lot. At this point, we deal with the war, or not the war, sorry, preparations for the upcoming war, where they have some long discussions about the makeshift armor, the makeshift weapons, and how all of a sudden all these banned guns that the ATF would have had a problem with just kind of show up. I love my American friends. My God, yes.
It's the South. They exist.
Yeah.
Yep. They're everywhere.
Yeah. Registered or not.
Right. So it's like the kudzu. It just goes everywhere.
It just exists, right? You know, it's like liberals in Canada. I mean, anyway, let's move along. So homemade explosives and homemade explosives are pretty cool too.
Yeah, I have the military guy who provides munitions. So
yes,
but one is banned now. I actually saw the paper. I got the paperback version of it. So
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
all things you can lose fingers and stuff. So I kind of just read it. So
when I was a kid, of course, I was back in the 90s. I don't even remember where I got a hold of it, but I got a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook off of some shady as hell website. I don't know. I never built any of it, but I always thought you needed like 500 strike anywhere matches. You cut the heads off every one of them. Maybe I better stop. I just thought of that. I'm like, anyway, it involved the tennis ball, duct tape, and matches. So, yeah, I never tried it. I always thought it'd be interesting. But, yes. Can you guys still get strike anywhere matches in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But they're not as good as they used to be.
Yeah.
We got Redbirds up here, and they're still okay, but they're getting harder to come by. They won't ship them in the mail anymore. You got to buy them at stores.
Most of these have all gone on that green tip. Or wherever the hell it is.
That's what because I looked on Amazon.com. I wanted to recommend some Strike Anywheres, and you couldn't find them. It's getting harder to come by, of course, because somebody somewhere did something stupid, I'm sure. And Martinson family said they had a waterbed until 1995. So that's about right. That's when I seen most of them go. How about Beth and Ben, being in the family way? Anybody want to?
It's inevitable.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Teenagers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just teenagers. Michaela went through and explained it, and her explanation of the whole thing was spot on. I mean, just look at what happened during COVID. How many babies were born during COVID? How many people were locked down in their house during COVID?
We
don't know what to do. Let's have sex and make babies.
Yeah.
She said something along the lines of, she almost thought it was in the genetic code or some sort of like latent, I forget how she explained it, but in my brain, I interpreted like some sort of Darwinian thing that when the species is threatened, it automatically procreates, right?
Yeah.
It kind of is.
What's that, Rach?
Perfect. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Rach. I'll get you.
I was going to say it kind of is in the code, because anytime a species is actually endangered is when the fertility rates have the tendency to go up and there's more activity going on. One of the human examples that's used is, look at a country where food is not secure. You not only have a lot more crime and a lot more violence going on, but you also have a much higher birth rate.
That's fair. And also a higher death rate too, right? For infant mortality rate, but it happens.
Yeah. It's a great stress reliever.
Yeah. Were you going to say, Nate?
So I was going to put it in terms of rabbits,
sure.
Since that's what I know. We have a few fat rabbits here. I mean, there's a couple that are overfed, and they don't produce nearly as good a litters.
Okay.
Now, the skinny rabbits that I pay attention to how much I feed them, and I cut back on their feed right before I go to breed them, always give bigger litters.
Huh. Did you know this, or was this through experimentation?
I kind of heard it from somebody, and Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee mentioned it, that she had some overweight rabbits and they just weren't producing for her. So she reset her rabbitry and now pays attention to how much she feeds them and is now getting more rabbits.
Isn't that interesting? And it makes total sense.
Yeah, because they're stressed out and they want to produce.
Cabot says plants under stress will go to seed. Same kind of thing. That's a really good point. And Chris says the rich get richer and the poor get children. Oh, that's funny on a whole lot of levels. So, all right. So that chapter 10 ends with evacuating the home on very short notice. Chapter 9, sorry, I said chapter 10. Chapter 9, probably, it seems like it is the longest stretch of time, but it's about a 12-hour window.
Right.
Starts with the attack in the morning, goes all around, ends up out to oversee all of the soldiers, and ends up coming back. The bodies are still laying on the ground, which is a sign that things have totally collapsed, of course. At 63 days, they're not picking up bodies very much anymore. And they have to evacuate, basically knowing that the home that he built or lived in is going to be burnt to the ground. Yeah. Chapter 10 opens back up on the exact same day, apparently, 63, which is interesting. And they discuss the battle. Or maybe it's the very next day. You could probably say day 64. I really like how Fortune talks about the battle in the past tense. I think it's really cool. How do I want to put it? Like, it's already happened, and it's a foregone conclusion. In some ways, it takes some of the suspense out of it, but I enjoyed it. I didn't need 12 chapters discussing the intricacies of the battle. I was really happy with this. One chapter that said, hey, here's the final battle, and then he kind of gives an hour or so description of how everything went down.
Yeah. And they also had one piece of equipment that helped them out immensely, and that was the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Because the streamers too, right? Remember? I'd forgot that was in this book.
Yeah. You had the guy up there flying the plane, and unfortunately he was a casualty of the battle. It ended up taking shots and crashing, but at one point was dropping satchel charges out of the plane.
Yeah.
Right, the charges too. I'd forgot about that. So how important do you think that one extra piece of technology or that one extra aspect to their fight was for them?
You have a bird's eye view of your enemy's movements. I mean, that's going to immensely help what you're doing. I would imagine a ton of people in history would have loved to have that.
Oh yeah, that's almost a game changer, really, for just a tactical advantage in itself.
Yeah,
I thought about it, but I didn't spend a lot of time considering how much that bird's eye view helped. I mean, I knew it gave them that quick, it gave them a couple hours notice. Hey, here they're coming. This is where they're coming from. But you're right. That probably was a game changer, because it's not like they could
save resources in the long run, really, by not keeping. They'd have to keep their guard on the road as long, not as many guards.
That's true, and they wouldn't have to guard places where there weren't people coming. So you'd have a lot quicker, a lot more effective allocation of resources as well.
Yeah, like he said, they couldn't come through the fire road because he said it was, and he couldn't see them because it was so thick. But he said people would get lost in there anyway.
Right.
I really liked the discussion between John and Washington. I loved the time spent in that. Basically, where they were talking about how did it go? Washington's idea was a quick and decisive victory, but not a total victory that would save casualties.
Yeah.
But it could be a long, drawn-out affair. Whereas John said his choice or option would be 3 times the casualties, but it would kill them all. You want to balance that out, Nate? What do you think? Did they make the right choice? I mean, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, I mean, I think they inevitably made the right choice. You don't want to kill off a ton of your force because you don't know what's coming in a month or two, and that's reality. If I remember, they went with Washington's.
No,
plan.
They didn't. They went with John's plan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They chose to have 3 times the casualties, but there wouldn't be a long, protracted war of attrition after the fact.
Yeah. Okay. So it's.
Sorry, I didn't.
It was like a month ago I read the book, so. But yeah, all right. So with that, I mean that either way it makes sense. You can make a case either way. It's not long and drawn, and you don't have to deal with it for weeks, but you're gonna lose some people. It sucks, and there were a lot of people they lost. That kind of meant something. They lost the guy with the plane. They lost the plane. They lost Ben. They lost Washington. So I mean, it's a lot of stuff.
It was tough. They spent quite a bit of time. Well, after I just want to say, okay, yeah. So they did that, and then the triage where Michaela went around and wrote numbers on people's foreheads. Mm-hmm. Anybody remember Pearl Harbor, the movie?
Yeah. Using the lips to.
Yeah, it sucks.
It was a lot of that triage is in just about any book you'll ever read.
Sure.
It's because it needs to happen.
It's effective. Yeah. Go ahead, Byron.
I mean, you just learn that as an instant commander. Get the triage and figure out who needs what. And don't waste your resources on somebody that might not make it a couple hours or.
Yep.
I mean, same way. I think the battle the same way. They might not have lost as many, but their resources would have been probably so diminished that if a second wave of the posse or even another group came through, they probably couldn't have handled them to defend themselves if they'd used, all their ammo up and backup supplies and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as the doctor, something I'd forgotten until now, the doctor had mentioned, I think before the battle, that there would be probably an outbreak and there'd be infections. Mm-hmm. They'd be fighting another battle after the war.
Right.
So if you've got a force that's that depleted and injured and sick and malnourished, they probably made the right decision, didn't they? It sucks, but they probably did.
I always thought that it was the right decision because they got to pick the time, the place, all the details of the battle, as opposed to they leave some of them around and then they get to pull the guerrilla warfare of hitting them spontaneously and, who knows what damage they can do and what they were able to drum up in the meantime.
Rachel reading The Art of War again. Look at her. That was good. Let me see. Yes. Very graphic depiction of an amputation without proper sedatives. Hey, Civil War. I was thinking some of the stories I heard about the Civil War with, didn't they use a saw or razor wire or what did they use back in the day?
I think it was a saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Man, I couldn't even. Anybody ever been to the dentist? I got this great big friggin' thick jaw on the bottom, and it doesn't freeze great, so you don't really feel the pain a whole lot, but you can kind of feel a lot of the grinding and the vibrating. And
that's the worst.
Yeah, it sucks. And I was thinking that poor girl, how much worse? Like it just would have been. Oh
yeah.
Here's some whiskey. Chew on this, and there we go.
Yep, that's about all you can do, right? I remember when I was, I don't know, it was probably grade 1 or grade 2, and I had to go to the doctor to get a shot, and the doctor said, just bite the bullet. And I'd never heard that before, and I asked him what he meant, and he explained it to me. Then I went the next day to the teacher and told her that he told me to bite the bullet, and she thought he meant that I bit on a real bullet. And I had to explain it to her. I was like, oh, you're dumb. So Joe says, apparently we're telling him that he needs an airplane. I'm not saying you do or you don't, but I am saying it could be a tactical advantage. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, if you're close to Indians, you can take us for rides too. So
yes. Last trip we took to the States, we came through Helena. We came through both times, and we went by a little airport, and I said to Becky, I said, I should really look into getting my pilot's license. I looked into it for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, nah, I'm not spending that kind of money. Not for, even a plane I could ever afford, but I think it had like a 200-mile range maybe. And I'm like, anyway, just it was funny. It was a cool little exercise for 10 minutes. Okay, then let's talk about the executions and the main posse leader. Anybody, Byron, you want to talk about that a little bit?
I think that's a good way. That's just a crime deterrent, a future crime deterrent. I mean, hang him up, let him, just like John Willis always says, put their heads on pikes.
Not wrong. I mean, that happens in a lot of books.
That's just the way to do it. I mean, I think because even if there was a part of their posse, like they left a second group behind or something. They come in, they see their actual leader is hanging there. They're not going to screw with them now. At least a smart person would.
Yeah.
Anybody read World Made by Hand? Have you read that one, Nate?
I think I did.
War book series. Carrie Brown recommended it to me. I've read it twice now. It's so good.
I think it's on my list, but I haven't done it yet. Then
one of the best. It's really good. It takes place after peak oil and everything. They run out of resources, and so anyway, there's a guy he's a local farm owner, and these guys break into his house in the middle of the night, and he strings up their bodies and leaves them there. His wife's like, "Take them down." He's like, "Nope."
Yeah.
I gotta say, I chuckled a bit. Well, a couple things. Number one, it was kind of cool that the bad guy leader, whatever the cult dude was, had an understanding of war. What do they call that? Like tactics and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
But he basically said it implied that he learned most of it from movies, didn't it? Or documentaries?
Yeah, documentary is way.
Yeah. So I had to chuckle when John's like, when he decided to hang him instead of shoot him, because the guy, he all of a sudden went from this big, tough, old friggin', cult leader to a bit of a sniveling little kid, which I'm not going to say I would face it well either, but it made me laugh a little bit. What about Rachel? When they talk about overreacting or at the point where they start enjoying the executions, do you remember that?
Yeah, wasn't that the point where they just decided to call it off? And
exactly.
did they just like exile them, or I don't remember.
I think it was the last 4 or 5 of them. They let them go because it got to the point where they were just, Nazi style executing them and then pushing them off the bank, right? And
the bloodlust was kicking in,
right? Because that's tough. Where do you? Because sure, they have the right to bloodlust. They have the right to execute their war criminals. But
it almost sounds like they marked them with something.
Well, okay.
And I had to reread it. And I'm like,
I read that too,
but it never made sense.
Didn't it seem like something was missing there, Byron?
Yeah, I thought maybe I got a PDF version of it. I thought, well, maybe it's just one of those. It could have just been
so it reminds me
or something, but it continued on. So okay.
Do you remember anybody see the movie Inglourious Bastards?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, Brad Pitt.
That movie.
I'm gonna kill me some Nazis.
The swastika onto Hitler's forehead.
Yes, or wasn't Hitler, but it was.
Wasn't Hitler? Yeah, it was one of the generals or something.
Yeah.
He's like, they ain't gonna kill me for this. I'll get a chewing. I've been given a chewing before. He carves the swastika in the guy, which I thought was a really cool nod to the fact of it was kind of going against Operation Paperclip, bringing all the Nazis in because, Anyway, so to go back to that, it was the mark of Cain is what he mentioned. He said you always have the mark of Cain on you, which is a biblical reference, kind of talks about Cain killing Abel.
Yeah.
And whatever it is in the Old Testament, he gets marked with for the rest of his days. But they mention that, and I don't know, maybe Bill won't even remember if I ask him, but it'd be because it's definitely not said that they mark them. I couldn't find it anywhere.
No.
It says you'll carry the mark of Cain with you wherever you go, but then it doesn't explain what the mark of Cain is. Any theories, guys?
Maybe you just forgot to spell it out. And
that's what I was wondering. Or maybe it was just a reference to the psychological scarring that they would have. I don't know, but it
could
was.
Be. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. Kind of cool.
Was the mark of Cain referring to being cursed for your actions?
Yes, that's what I was just doing the Googlings.
Is that what you found?
Yes.
Yeah, because obviously I grew up, in a Bible home and 4 years in university, and so I heard the story of it a long time, and I think it was just kind of the curse of knowing you killed your brother and having to depending on who you talk to, whether you call it a metaphor or a parable or whatever, it was the idea of carrying that grief or that psychological strife with you for the rest of your life.
Your baggage.
Yeah. Find anything for us, Byron?
Oh, there's one of them said there's 3 or 4 once you get the scroll. I'm like, is that he would be under nothing would profit or be fruitful for him once he was banned.
I think the idea was that no matter what he tried to grow,
Yeah.
the idea was apparently before that was that gardening would be easy. Basically humans could always walk around and eat whatever they wanted. And after that, in order to eat, they'd have to work hard.
Yep.
And I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know if Nate's smiling about this, but if you go to Ayn Rand's philosophy, are you thinking of this, Nate, or not?
Go ahead and say it. Go ahead.
Okay. I really appreciated Ayn Rand because she flipped that right on its fucking head. Because her philosophy was that the most important thing to a human is the toil and the work and the fruits of their labor because of the work. And she looked at that curse as a blessing and as the only purpose of humanity. I can't believe I got all that out without slipping over it, but it was really cool. That really blew my mind when I heard that. And I'm glad you were going there too, Nate. That made me happy. So,
Yep.
but yeah, so wow, we can't go an episode by without. We really need to get Ayn Rand into the rotation here before too long. So
it's gonna be a trip.
It will. I'm really looking forward to it.
And I don't think I can reread it or listen to it this time. So I don't know yet.
Too
I
tough.
tried to pick it back up, and it's just.
I think Aaron is 6 chapters in right now.
Wow. Should we let a little bit of the cat out of the bag right now, Nate, or should we wait till the end of the episode what we've been talking about?
We can let the cat out of the bag.
All right. So Nate and I have been, playing a little, what do they call that? But I don't know. Anyway, there's a name for it. But we came up, I think we're going to start first of next year, right? January 1st, I think. Yeah. Or did we think fall? What did we say? Maybe when
I think fall. I think we're going to do it going into the fall.
And we're going to split it up into, I think, 10 episodes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be three chapters each.
And it's going to be a joint challenge between the workshop and Two Chicks Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going, what are we going to call it? I don't know if we even have a name yet. Do we, Nate?
I don't know either, but there's going to be something good at the end.
There's going to be a piece of swag. We won't, there'll be something. There's going to be a legit prize or a legit badge of honor of some sort that everybody who completes the book will earn. What's that?
The Great Shrugging or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
In case anybody wonders, if you remember in elementary school when you used to read so many books and you get a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut.
I got Star.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do because so many people have talked about Atlas Shrugged and how we need to read it. And I thought, what better way to do it than for all of us to do it as a challenge? Sorry, not just me. Nate and I thought.
Yeah, I'll do it for that.
I knew you would. See, there you go. I'll
put it out here, Tim. Yeah. I'll 100% sponsor that.
Well, we'll make it work, man. That's fucking awesome. That's great. I'm excited because, anyway, it's going to be cool. Nate and I haven't worked out all the ins and the outs, but we have enough of it worked out that it's coming.
If I can get it transferred off my iPad, I'll send it. I've got a PDF version of it.
Okay.
If anybody wants to actually, that's all. I'll just read it because I don't have a lot of time.
I was clandestinely handed a USB full of gigs and gigs and gigs of prepper and survival books and things at this event I was at and told to distribute it. So anyway, it'll be an in-person only distribution, but
I've got
what's that?
I've got some PDFs and stuff. I need to screen to share in the group. I'll make a Dropbox or something.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. We won't speak too much about it publicly, but it's cool anyway. I just did, so whatever. All right.
So we got Foxfires and
I love Foxfire. First book of them. If nobody's ever read the Foxfire series, back when I first got into homebrewing, I found the Foxfire book of homemade wine or something like that. That's what introduced me to the Foxfire series. So if you haven't seen it, it's like basically a whole bunch of Appalachia. What would you call it?
Backwoods living.
Yeah, there. Thank you. Yes, that's it. Yeah, really.
That was like the backwoods magazine. Was it the in the day, the time before we had actual magazines, I guess you'd say.
Yes. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
somebody wanted to preserve all the heritage of the old ways of doing it.
While we're talking about this, I don't know what made me remind me of this, but I interviewed Paul Wheaton on Monday, whatever. It was just a short one. We only got about 25 minutes in because where we were getting interviewed, there was a presentation coming. But one little spoiler in it. Did anybody know he used to be big into like the early internet? So he designed software and things that work.
Bananacom.
What's that?
He
Bananacom.
always has to talk. Yeah, he always has to brag about being the developer of Bananacom.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. So anyway, I'm not going to give away any more than I'm sure lots of people have heard it, but it was neat. He talked about it a bit in the interview. So, okay, next, the phone call. I hate the phone call. I hate everything about the phone call. It makes me so uncomfortable. I don't know. Good night, Chris. Time to hit the sack for Mr. I'm going to mispronounce Dividal. We'll see. I'll just roll it off my tongue, and there you go. So have a good night, Chris. It's almost like you know what the answer to the phone call is going to be. So, I mean, we've already spoiled this entire book. So if you're still listening at this point and you haven't read the book, not much I can do. Yeah. You want to talk about the phone call, Nate?
I hated it too. I mean, it's like, me as a parent, I get it. But it didn't need to be in the book.
I think you're right. Maybe that's what it was.
I mean, that's anybody who has a kid is going to do what they can, short of begging like that. Like
Right.
I don't see myself begging like that. We're going to try and make something work, but I'm not going to go begging for that. From another city, because it's not going to. You can't. It's too far away to get the stuff to you. And the situation that she was in, the daughter, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, that was just...
And the fact that she was around for, call it 70 days.
131 days.
131 days.
So what is that? That is 4.5 months.
Yeah. The fact that she survived that long with what they had, good on her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I do. I mean, I've got 5 kids of my own, and I would probably do what I could. There's just something about it. I just don't like that phone call. And part of it is it's uncomfortable to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Byron.
It'd almost be different if the phone call was begging and pleading for food for the whole town, or because hey, we just lost 50. We lost 50 kids, and now we lost 100 adults, and we've lost this. We need help now. Not just one person.
Chapter 11 and chapter 12 were both really short chapters.
Yeah,
they were about half the length of the other chapters. So I don't know if it was maybe like stretch it out a little bit. I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway.
They're almost like second thoughts, or
there's just something
in the middle of the night when he woke up and wrote it down on his notepad and said, okay, I'll put it in the book. And that was just
if there was one thing in the entire 12 chapter book that I would take out, it would be that phone call. Maybe that's a reflection of me. I would love to hear from other people.
Extended it. It just showed desperation that it didn't need to be in there. I mean, just for...
I think so. For somebody who was as strong as he was.
Yeah, to me, that's the most desperation he's showing in person. If you know that, try to strong arm somebody into it while you're...
You could have spent more time with Rabs the Rabbit story. He could have... Honestly, that would have probably affected me more if they'd have went back and spent almost the whole chapter of John sitting there dealing... geez.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys know what I'm saying. It
needed some filler. I mean, you could add a little more backstory to Washington, or even have was it Don the pilot do something. Talk about his instead of just killing him off so quick in the battle, maybe wound him or let him like tell his side what he's seen in the air before.
I think, and maybe this was just from maybe the phone call. Okay, I've read the book three or four times now, and so maybe the phone call just bugs me now because I knew the ending before it happened. Whereas maybe if you're reading the book for the first time, it was a way to hold that hope out for the reader just a little bit longer. Because when you don't know the ending, it is going to stretch that out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because nobody thinks that he's going to kill a 12-year-old or 13-year-old diabetic girl. You don't think that's going to happen. He doesn't just do that, but I mean, both the family dogs, they both get eaten. I mean, holy shit, this is a dark book. But yet
I warned everybody this was a dark book.
You did, and that's fair. But it's a realistic book, and go ahead, Byron.
I mean, it's dark, but it's also that's the truth. That's real world.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. And
Oh, poor Know Your Joe said he joined late. We're doing. We decided to do a second week or a second episode on 1 second after. We did. There was so much to cover, and I don't think we've really overlapped a whole lot from the previous our previous episode anyway. So, but so there's a big jump from here. We talked about it, but Rabs the rabbit, Jennifer passes. He buries her in the garden. Ginger, the dog, was the sacrifice.
Yeah,
that was a pretty poignant. That sucked a lot, but I appreciated it. The fact that poor Ginger, had to go away in order to probably allow little Ben to survive.
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty cool. Again, one of the
good way to write the dog out. I mean, not just
And again, I gotta say, I think Fortune is probably the best writer in prepper porn, modern prepper porn sphere. Because he set that up a long time ago. He set that up in chapter 6 when they're discussing the dogs at the city council, and he basically loses it. So yeah, it was absolutely. Oh, Know Your Joe said we thought we were talking about a book called The Phone Call. Oh, I can see that. Yeah. Funny how you can come in or out like that. But all right, so let's sum up chapter 12. There wasn't much in that, and it's short. But so day 365, 1 year later, of course, little Ben's alive, which is cool. The column of military shows up. They bring rations, vitamins, and a loudspeaker. They made a comment about how nobody had heard amplified sound like that in a long time. Didn't bring great news. They brought their boys back from Asia. There's pirates off the coast. Most of what Voices of America said was total shit and propaganda. Probably 10% of the population survived. And Mexico and China and all their altruistic goodness moved into the continent to take care of you Americans.
Yeah, Texas and California is full of Mexicans and Chinas. And what did he say? Only about 25,000 people were left in New York.
Could you imagine? Was that 1% of 1%? So, say 20 million.
That's the size where I live now. So, I mean, that many people. I'm like, wow, that would be crazy.
Man, I love the old The Stand movie, the Stand miniseries from '94. There's some really cool scenes in there where there's like 5 people in the entire city. I mean, there's probably more, but they've got shots of the last 5 or 6 survivors in the entire city. I think it's a Lincoln Tunnel, maybe, or whatever tunnel it is, just completely clogged with corpses and cars. Yeah. Anyway, so the military. Everybody thinks everything's so great at the end here. What do we want to sum it up as? Let's talk about propaganda a little bit. Did Voice of America do the right thing, Byron, by, filling people full of shit and giving them false hope?
Yeah, you always have to give some people false hope just to keep them. It might be the only thing keeping a lot of people from taking their own life, just to keep that mental, there could be help coming, or,
I suppose when you say that, because what good would it be to broadcast bad news, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, because some people are not even going to listen to it. They're not going to care. no matter what's broadcasted. But some people that are so, especially, I mean, I know at that time the internet wasn't as big, but you get somebody that's so used to being on the internet, talking to their friends, seeing all the stupid TikToks, and they want the happy stuff. They want the rainbows and unicorns all day. They don't believe there's nothing else out there. But
what do you think, Nate? 30 million people still alive. So at that point, that you might as well say 90% of the population of the continental United States died in 1 year.
Yeah.
Accurate or not?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, city dwellers aren't going to do as good. They're not going to have the skills. And honestly, a lot of people just might not have the skills and might not be able to make it. And then you have all the fighting, and it would get ugly. I would say 30 million is a lot higher than I would think. I'd go maybe 1 million, maybe 2 million.
You think that would be all that would be left?
Yeah. Because people are going to want to spread out.
I want to see if we can find this here. 80% of all Americans live in cities.
Mm-hmm.
So all that would take is for basically the cities to die. I know that sounds awful, but if the cities died and only half of the rural people died, there's your 90% right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if there was a 50% survival rate in the rural and 100% fatality in all the major cities, which isn't that far off. I mean, you might get 1% or something, but yeah, that makes sense actually.
How long would it be before people in the cities just started choking on their own sewage?
Right.
And sanitation issues.
Yep.
Well, somebody said, I think, I don't know if it's in Don Stevens' book about retreating or if it's Mel Tappan on survival. But one of them said that a bug out location is no good whatsoever if it's less than a full tank of gas from a city. I thought, isn't that an interesting concept, right? And Know Your Joe said, is this more of a novel? I've heard of the book, but thought it was more of an instruction type of book or manual. The cool thing about this book is that it was based on a congressional report, right, Nate?
Yeah.
Kinda? Yeah, It was inspired by a congressional report on the fact that the U.S. and by proxy Canada, I'm sure, is not ready for any sort of EMP strike. And so I guess when Mr. Fortune there was on the episode, he talked about what would be the most effective way to educate people. And when it came down to it, he thought it was through fiction. So this is a total fiction. It's 100% novel. And I think it's pretty damn effective.
I would say this is the novel and Going Home is more of the manual.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. I can see that. And Going Home is okay. Here, let me do you one better. Let's put 1 second after here. Let's put John Wesley Rawls' Patriots here, and let's put Going Home in the middle. How's that sound? Does that work? Yeah. Because I mean, Patriots is a manual.
Oh
Going Home. Go ahead.
Patriots is just a shopping list. And it should have just been Amazon leaks if it was.
Speaking of which,
they're in the book.
Ryan Buford, if you're listening to this, we were supposed to talk about an Amazon book at Thrivalist Fair, and we didn't. Instead, we hung around and drank bourbon and had a great time looking toward the future. So that was cool. But Moon Bear said we've all convinced him to read it. What's that, Nate?
So Going Home is more. It'll get you thinking about stuff instead of a shopping list. Like you wouldn't think on how to. I'm going to go research how to make my own soap, or I'm going to go research how to do a solar system, or hey, that's a good idea to have that old beater truck laying around. It's more of a manual, but it's still it's not the novel.
More realistic,
right? It's definitely couched in fiction, right? Like it's a really good narrative that also talks a lot about the practical things, like
it's real world skills. Yeah.
every time Becky and I leave a hotel and we take all the little soaps and the coffee packets with us, I think of Danny and how they had coffee for an extra month because he, after, you know, he's like, oh my God. Yeah. So Becky said when we were in this last time, she goes, we need to get some special Rubbermaids to separate all the stuff at home. Cause right now we just use freezer bags, but you know, who knows? It's there. We take it and stockpile it.
Well, use it. You paid for it.
Yeah, you're right. We did. We always have fun when we go to like the supplied breakfasts and you find some different things like I don't know, what honey or Nutella, the weird ones you don't always see. We're like, oh, let's grab a couple of them to take home.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure somebody's judging me immensely right now, but that's okay.
The hotel we stay at, we go to Pigeon Forge usually once a year. And they, always have little peanut butter cups. I'm always like 6 or 7 the time I come. I'm ready to go home. I'm always just peanut butter and honey.
I just had a couple of yogurts this morning that came home from the hotel, so there's that. So yeah. Cabot said the first 2 or 3 going homes were a shopping list. Yes, it did get a little better. The first book especially had, like when he's walking in the woods and things. Absolutely. Know Your Joe says the thing about cities, high density populations, the presence of gangs. They have established hierarchy and violence is already in their playbook. I believe they will exhibit domination at least until they run out of supplies to raid, but I don't know. Please say the gas tank distance thing again. So I wish I could remember exactly who it was. I'm not sure if it was either of them, to be honest, but the idea was that a bug out location should always be more than a full tank of gas from any major population center. Anything more than 5,000 people, I guess, is what I think this was Mel Tappan that said it. But the idea was most people aren't going to have a full tank of gas in a collapse because most people don't keep their gas tank full. But there's going to be 5% of the people who just happen to stop at the gas station 5 minutes before something bad happens. And everybody's going to want to leave the city. Now, people are going to eventually migrate on foot, but the first few are going to be the lucky ones that have a full tank of gas. So if you end up having that kind of scenario and they want to get their family out of Dodge, they're going to want to, they're going to hop in the truck or their car and they're going to drive as far as they can. So, a fun exercise I did a while ago was I looked at how could I drive from Canada down to our property in Tennessee while attempting to stay as far from any large urban area as possible. Hopefully I never need to do it, but it's a cool exercise to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it is possible. Not 100%, but about 99% possible, especially if you stay over to the Dakotas ways. There ain't nothing in there. But anyway.
Yeah, I always we go to Tennessee. I know the way we can get back, whether it's 2-lane roads or even go from a 3-hour drive to a 5.5, 6-hour drive through the really.
I'd rather have a 6-hour drive and arrive alive than take the interstate through Nashville. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we did 2 hours. So we did a total of 4.5 hours on 1 second after. I think we did it justice. I'm glad we came back and revisited it because I think I would have felt like we left a lot on the table for sure. Mm-hmm. Now I think we already did our. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
I dropped the photos of my ham radio setup in the in the workshop chat on Telegram.
Okay. Excellent.
Anybody that has any questions, just feel free to hit me up or. I'll answer what I can. So that's pretty expensive equipment to have as a new person. I will tell you that.
I did get my ham radio antenna, like you said, Nate. So that's my next this winter. Cool. You're going to help me on FaceTime, and I'll pay you to help me. But we're gonna get it set up, and we're going to at least so I can listen until I get my license, right? So
cool.
And I'm going to drop the Telegram link for those who are still around. If you're listening on the replay, it's also in the description because if you're not part of the Telegram group, you're not hanging out with the cool kids. You need to come by and hang out with all us fellow delinquents.
Yeah.
Martinson says you need a big slip tank and some farmer friends along your route to refill with purple diesel or purple gas. Yes. I have enough fuel on hand that I could drive from here to Tennessee, I'm pretty sure, with the fuel I have. As long as I have a full tank, but I would love to have another 100-liter 25 gallon slip tank.
Now, is that driving under normal circumstances?
Right. That's the thing. Yes, it is. So that would be, yeah. I mean, I would never want to count on the fact that I could get that full way, but
right,
it would be a good start. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
I don't really want to drive.
Idle time might get you coming from.
That's what I'm
weird,
concerned about. Yeah, I don't know.
Weird,
Hopefully, a father never has to think about it, but it's a fun exercise. You buy land in Tennessee, of course, you're going to think about that stuff, right?
Yep.
I used to think about how I could get back to Nova Scotia if I ever needed to, because we still had family, and at that time we still had a house out there. Well, that's almost twice as far as going to, maybe not twice, but pretty damn close to twice as far as going to Tennessee. So, 5-day drive to Nova Scotia and a 3-day drive to Tennessee. So there's that. But any other thoughts, Byron?
No, I think it was a good night, a good chat with everybody.
It's always a good chat. I love it. Gas, Martinson, gas. Yeah, someday it should be fuel or diesel. I would, I'd love to have one of those. So, see, Know Your Joe says, now I see I need an extended range bush plane. Sure. Hey, whatever you can get. I did talk to somebody a little while ago who said, if you can't figure, if you can't afford a plane yourself, make friends with somebody with a plane. So if you ever needed to exfiltrate quickly, there might be, a couple 100-mile range could, with some money in your pocket, you could get quite a, you know what I mean? You could make something happen if you can read between the lines. There's Martinson says a few drop tanks strategically placed. Yes, exactly. A couple of
or a beater diesel that doesn't have electronic equipment and a 100-gallon fuel tank in the back.
Oh yes.
I've had a 88, 87, 7.3 diesel. Non-turbo. They got great fuel mileage.
Something like that would be great. I did have a 100-gallon slip tank here, but it didn't work for what I wanted, and it was taking up too much space, so off it went. But yeah, you're right. A 100-gallon tank would be awesome. Oh, that would be great.
It just gets you an extra someone to fab up another tank up under the truck. So
yeah. Here's the big. So this is my third Ram. And we went, so when I went from the 6.5 foot box to the 5.5 or 5.8 box or whatever, it went from 110 liter tank to an 80 liter tank. So I lost, I don't know if my math's right, 25% or 20% capacity. That's a big difference. That drove me, so that's like, what is that? Let me see, 25 liters down to 20 liters, gallons. So that, that's a bit of driving for sure.
Well, I'm not saying it's legal, but you could take that 100-gallon fuel tank and out of the drain plug, make it gravity feed into your tank underneath the truck.
Yes, Stephen Harris, you could do that. I remember him talking about that. He used to take them friggin' 15-gallon plastic drums and fill them full of fuel and drive with them. So yeah, anyway. Interesting. I love it. But I think last thoughts here, but I was at Harbor Freight a couple days ago, and I've been eyeing up those fold-up trailers. I want to get one of them just to do a whole video series on, I think.
You just sent Harbor Freight an email. So, hey, can you sponsor a trailer?
I'm working on it. Anyway, Becky has opened up a Toolman Tim email address, just to strictly that one. And she said, give me a list of all the companies you want me to reach out to. Tell me what products you use of theirs. And so we're gradually working our way through all these companies of things that I actually use and actually support. Good. So hopefully Harbor Freight will come through for me.
Yeah, give them a return of investment, tell them.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
You guys don't have them up in Canada, though, right?
No, I'd be the only Canadian that would talk about them.
Yeah, but that's a very good point. You drive across the border to go buy their products.
You're so dedicated to Harbor Freight, you drive it, how many miles it is.
The nearest Harbor Freight to me is a 7-hour drive away. So
there you go. There's your selling point. I drive 7 hours for Harbor Freight stuff.
You guys know I never go to the States without snapping a selfie in front of a Harbor Freight. So it's so I don't know. It's fun. I enjoy it. I picked up a new product. I haven't even taken a picture yet. Just came out last week at Harbor Freight. It's one of those battery top-offs. So you put it on their cordless battery, and it gives you a 150 watt AC outlet on it. So we'll test that guy out on one of their batteries. Same thing as the DeWalt, you know. But so let's go around the horn. Byron, where can anybody find you if they ever want to talk to you?
Well, I got 2 Instagrams actually.
Oh,
_LJ is my
say that
page.
again, slower.
Foolish Habit _LJ.
Okay.
And my personal Instagram is Byron.Roberts06. I need to get back on it. That's more of the prepping, gardening. I've been kind of slow on both Instagrams. So
send me links anytime. I'd love to. I'll promote it for sure. So
all right,
Rachel, where can people find you other than at the warehouse when you're working?
On the chats. I'm on your chat. Yeah. I'm on Nate's chat. I'm on the Liberty Meats chat. American Breast Chickens chat. Occasionally I pop in over on the Lots chat, but that's usually just to clear it because it'll end up being 500 messages halfway through the day. Yeah, Telegram chats. I'm around usually doing something stupid.
We love you. You drop in between, playing with your dog and playing pool, and we get to hear about it. I always love hearing from you because I know you're busy, but I appreciate you coming by all the time. So,
actually, right now I'm working on propagating a bunch of plants.
Ooh, what are you propagating?
I have 7 kinds of mint,
okay,
4 kinds of peppers, 4 heirloom tomatoes, 4 different varieties of heirloom tomatoes. I basically went to the farmer's market while I had a couple of days off and got somewhere, I'd say a good $300 of plants for less than $100.
Wow,
Nice.
How'd you get them so cheap? Just by going to the farmer's market instead?
Yeah, I mean, the one stand that I stopped at, I picked up a citronella plant that's probably a good 2 feet tall for $8.
Yes, sir.
Roman chamomile, which is a perennial. So I'm hoping to be able to spread that around. I really want to put in a nice tea garden. So that's one of the reasons for being able to propagate it. But I also figured that'd be a nice little thing that maybe I could put on Etsy or something like that. Custom tea blends, something like that.
I'd buy some. I don't even drink that much tea, but I would. Sure. That's cool. I like hearing that.
Yeah, that market's taken off a little bit. There's someone local that sells at our farmer's market that's selling their own teas and stuff now. So.
Well, just in the mints, I have apple mint, pineapple mint, chocolate mint, strawberry mint, mojito mint, which I never heard of before, and then the regular peppermint and spearmint.
Sounds pretty good. I think you got a mint idea there. Oh, dear God. Shut up, Tim.
Dad joke.
How about you, Big Bad Nate? Where can people find you?
Well, I'll give everybody a tip. If you want to shop at farmers markets, go at the end of the day and offer them less money so they don't have to take the stuff home.
Honey, I think you should do that. There's the one guy that has a fruit stand on the one side and plants on the other side. He has 4 girls that work for him. So one was running one register, one was running the other register, and the other 2 girls are like running around picking out all the stuff that they really don't want to take home, fill up like one of those 6-foot tables that's in the main walk area, and the guy's just like, $10 for the whole table.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
So like those bushel boxes that you would get the bananas in?
Yeah.
Yeah, $10.
Nice.
So you can find us twochickshomestead.com.
Which chick are you?
I am the bearded chick.
Thank you. Okay.
Just get that out there right now. Aaron and I do a bi-weekly podcast right now. So we'll probably pick it up since we're getting a little bit busier now. We got some stuff to talk about. So
nice. And ham radio? Do you know anybody that could help with ham radio?
Yep. If you have any questions on ham radio, just hit me up. You can find me in Tim's Telegram chat. I just posted a couple pictures earlier tonight. So if you got any questions on what that stuff is or what it costs,
Hurt.
the only
I heard something. Did you say narc or nerd?
No, I say he's gonna make my wallet hurt.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
I heard narc. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Anyway, go ahead.
He's gonna make my-
I can get you guys started. I mean, really, if you are interested, seriously interested in ham radio, it's going to be about $2,000 to get set up.
That's fair.
So-
At least you're honest about it.
I mean, it is what it is. So
Cool. Well, thank you guys. This was another good one. I think the next one we will do, I don't know the exact date yet. We'll figure that out. But the next one's going to be, what's it called? The day out? No.
is it 1 year after?
1 year after.
1 year after.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, so I gotta get it.
Moon Bear's looking for a link. What link are you looking for, Moon Bear, before we close up here? I'll put it through for you. And if not, is it the Telegram link you're looking for? Because I just we'll throw that back up one more time. And if you need any of Nate's links, it's what is it? twochicks.com?
It's twochickshomestead.com is the website, and then our Telegram, I can send it to you.
Okay. So there's Nate's twochickshomestead.com. Okay. Looking for Telegram or something. So we got Nate up there, and we got the Telegram group, and we'll share. If you've got it, Nate, throw it over to me.
And there's I just sent you our Telegram.
Okay. Copy link. Here it is, guys, for anybody still listening that isn't half in the bag or half asleep on the East Coast. We get you it's coming through.
Yep.
There we are. Cool. All right, guys. With that, we always appreciate you. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.